Okay, everybody, we're going to get started on the testimony. So, I just would like to introduce Shane Osborne is going to be sharing his testimony today. So, thanks Shane for coming and sharing with us today. So, go ahead.
Well, thank you everybody for coming. I got asked many months ago to share my testimony, and I know that when you give your testimony, like I've been coached with other pastors, that you want to make sure you hit the points of your life that you, as your testimony, can see where God's hand was in your life. So, and I know if we did like my whole life story, we wouldn't have time today for all that. So, and I just, I kind of seek the Lord about it. I said, Lord, what do you want me to talk about? What parts of my life do you want me to share, to witness to someone or anyone here, or who may see this recording now, 6 months, 10 years from now? And I didn't feel led to write any notes. I didn't feel led to even study for today. It was, you're going to go up there and you're going to just, whatever he imposes on my heart, I will try to share that as clearly as I can. So with that being said, I'm just going to kind of start through my childhood. I'll kind of go into my teenage years. I kind of go into my young adult, and then right to where I'm at now. But I remember like the first few things, or like the first key thing I remember when I was younger was my mom and dad getting baptized. That was kind of interesting. Like, we go to this church. We've never been there before. My grandma and grandpa Osborne had given their lives to Jesus. They crossed paths with somebody. I can't even remember the people's names that they were in association with to get, baptized and for them to become, part of our faith. And I watched my mom and dad get dunked, and I went, man, why did they stick them underwater? Like, I don't understand why they're dunking them under in the tank. I don't know. I don't understand what that was. And next thing I know, we're going to church on Sunday, and like Sunday school is kind of cool because, we get to learn about stuff. We got to color on sheets and do certain songs that I can't remember what the lyrics were to most of them. Luckily today, we reminded me one of the, don't let your light shine, don't cover it under a basket. Well, I remember that one. And so I remember that part. And then I remember being, I was probably a little bit down the road, starting to retain some of what you're getting taught. And, that scripture verse that, greater is he that is in you than he that is in the world. Now I can't quite tell you where that reference is. I know it's in the Bible. It's somewhere from the first page to the last. It's pretty sure it's probably in the Old Testament. But I remember when I'd get fearful, or I feel scared, I'd recite that part of that scripture through my head multiple times. It's like, greater is he that is in me than he that is in the world. And I would say that as many times as I needed until I felt the peace, and then I would fall asleep. And I couldn't tell you how many times I've done that, but that was one of those verses, the first ones I remember, to not be fearful, because fear can derail you on any plans that God may have for you. Fear is like one of those ones you don't want to have that anywhere in you. And so I remember that as being younger. And then I got into my teenage years. We're still in the church. Now I'm starting to do youth group activities, and I'm starting to work. I found out what it was like to be a hard worker. Dad said, you always go and make sure you never leave a job with a bad recommendation or a bad anything. Always do the best you can. Work really, really hard. And so I tried to do that all through like my first job, even doing mail in a mail room, adding flyers into every single mailbox. Well, maybe that was just leading up to where I am now. That systematic tick, and make sure every single box has got a flyer. Maybe made like $5 and I was in there for an hour. Well, I tell you, I was making really good money back then. And so I remember doing jobs like that. And then I got a little bit older, and as soon as I turned 18 and I got out of the house, and people would ask me about my faith or about how I walked with God. And I kind of walk on the fence, I was like, I kind of stay on the fence, and and I kind of step off the fence. I'm like, hey, the friends are having a party down at the river. Well, let's go down to the party, Well, I'd never really been taken by alcohol or drugs or smoking or any of that. So I'd go down there, be hanging out with the guys thinking that was really cool, and then take that beer, and when nobody was looking, I'd dump it out. And then pull it back up, hey, I need another one, crush the can, and then, just play the part. And I did take drama when I was in high school, so I was really good at, I could play a part like that. So I did that quite a few on a lot of little parties I went to. And I had a lot of buddies that took partake of that a lot and had a really struggle time getting away from it, or they still do. And I was the designated driver. So I'd make sure my buddies, they'd go to the party, I'd make sure I could get them home safely. Because I wasn't really drinking. I was like, they probably, as far as they thought, I probably had like 5 or 6 of those things. Still be able to get my truck started, make sure everybody gets in the pickup, and get them all dropped off at their houses at midnight or whatever time it was. And I thought that was kind of maybe hopefully a blessing for me to protect them so that they made it home. Because you never know what your influence is or in your sphere, which as big as that could be very big, it could be very small. And just to make sure that those guys made it home. Even if I only had 2 best friends all through high school, I wanted to make sure those 2 guys could make it home if we were doing stuff we knew we weren't supposed to be doing. And then I remember getting out of high school, like going to college. I still kind of that walking the fence thing, well, today, I feel like I need to go to church on Sunday. Well, I go to church on Sunday, love every minute of it. And then the next 2 Sundays, I'd be camping or I'd be up in the mountains. So, my dedication to God wasn't very good. I'm pretty sure he was carrying me through many of those years from that, driver's license time frame to, early 20s. He was carrying me. So everybody knows the saying about the footsteps in the sand. And I've seen those little things everywhere. I've seen them at yard sales. And I was like, man, that is the truth. Like, if you really look back at where you stand now and walk and look backwards at your past and go, oh, wow, well, I sure wasn't walking on my own. I'm pretty sure either if he wasn't carrying me, he was dragging me. So if you see the drag marks in the sand, that might have been me with my feet dragging a little bit. And God's like, come on, son, come on. I've got greater things for you. I've got bigger plans. Now, can you see that when you're in it? No. You can't see much farther than your nose, which is kind of scary because you can't see the blessings that are coming or what's coming before you. You don't see it. I didn't see it. And so then I get into where, I'm thinking, well, I think I found this perfect lady. But, oh, man, I think I should get married to her. I got a warning from my dad. Dad says, I don't know. I don't think I'd get married to her. I'm like, oh, Dad, everything's going great. We're getting along fine. And that turned out to be a little bit bumpy. Well, I'm not a quitter. So I like having a lady in my life and been married a few times. And after all that life experience and all the hardship and all the things I went through, I end up with the beautiful lady I have now. Now remember, I had to walk through every single one of those relationships, go through all that stuff like Chris talked about this morning with all that garbage and all that junk in your past. Well, one of the things I noticed was different about my wife is she had to walk with God. And her walk was just as strong as mine, if not stronger. So you want to be together with someone, this was probably more for young people, is make sure you wait. I totally encourage you to wait. I don't want you to walk through the same path I walked through and go deal with all of that stuff when I didn't need to. If I was just patient and I just waited, the blessing was there. I just had to wait for it. But I was like, oh, no, this has got to be her. I'm excited. Oh, yeah, let's get married because then, this is going to be a good thing. Well, it was a good thing down the road. At the time, not really. It was hard. It was rough. Had your nights where you couldn't sleep, weeks where you couldn't eat. And so I do encourage the younger people to wait for that right person that God's got set for you. God, even before I met my wife, there was a little lady that he threw in my path. And I went to church and I walked by her and I swear I could see the glory of God all over her as she stood there with a nice little smile, like her hands behind her back. And I'm like, and you know what, at my time in my walk with God, that scared me. I'm like, oh, what was that? Put your head down and walk out the door. Because but that's what the blessing was there. The Lord's showing me this. She could be your last wife. Well, I wasn't mature enough in my walk with God to see that or to experience that. So then when I got together with my little lady, I don't know how to explain all that. She was amazing. That's a whole nother story. Probably still part of my testimony, my story, but she was very, she was already grounded. She was already like making sure I wasn't calling, she was calling my bluff. I'm like, oh, this is fantastic. You know, and we did a whole year long of cat and mouse type thing. And I'm like, well, I guess if she doesn't want me to take her out to dinner, then she's off the list. I'm not going to, well, I don't want to, no, you're that, I'll treat her just like a sister. She'd come up and ask me questions. I'm like, why are you asking me that for? You got a boyfriend. Like, it's just kind of a funny story. Maybe we could tell that at another time. But,
best told together.
yes, we would have to say it together in front of all of you for you to hear it. It's amazing. But we didn't know what was in store for us. So God blessed me with her. And for, you know, I don't know, we've always raised 4 adult kids. And I've always liked kids. I've always had a heart for kids. And speaking of that, there's one right here. And I teased her for probably 10 years straight. And like, man, what happens if we have like another little one? Like, what, I mean, it could happen. God could bless us with another kiddo. And we went to, we did a lot of things at Living Waters Ranch. We went to their get-togethers, met a lot of prayer leaders, a lot of pastors, missionaries. It was amazing. And praise and worship was awesome, the teaching. And I felt that when we went for prayer, for communion that time, I was to ask for a double portion. Now, I caution you on that. Watch what you pray for. God does hear your prayers, and he will answer them. So be careful what you ask for. You might just get it if it's in his will. So I prayed for a double portion. And the double portion, I didn't know what that was. I don't know why I was led by the Holy Spirit to ask for that or to pray for it. I didn't know what was coming. I had no idea. Well, you wouldn't believe it, but a few years later, we have adult kids, and sometimes those adult kids make adult decisions, and those decisions have adult consequences. And you can pray for them, and you can do the best you can to help them, but you got to remember that they're still in God's hands. God has got them, and you've got to have faith that God will protect them, and whatever happens, he can always make it right. That's just like Chris talked about this morning about a positive and a negative. You're seeing a negative right now, but you can't see the positive on the other side of what God's doing with that situation and how it's going to work out. And it's hard to see it when it's right in front of you. Same thing with I can't see much farther than my nose, and God usually will only let you see one step at a time in your path. Only one. Because if he lets you see 5 or 10 ahead, what's the first thing you're going to do? Well, I could probably jump over that step and hop over that one, and then I can get to that 5th one that I really like. Well, God's not like that. He's only going to show you probably one step at a time. So back to the blessing and the double portion. The choices that were made ended up where we got blessed with the 3 grandkids. And if anybody understands how the foster system works and how the rules and regulations and what you have to go through to be a foster parent, well, I was next of kin because I'm my daughter's dad. And so I got, once there was a whole long more story going to all of that, to how we got the kiddos. But anyway, I just felt that if we're going to get the kids, I'm all in. All in. We're not going to mess around. We're not going to do not as long as I need to. Once all the timelines are met, we did all the requirements. It was like, okay, like, well, you can adopt like the first 2 and you can wait on the 3rd. No, all 3 of them are going to be all at one shot. If we're going to do this, they're all going to be at the same time. So we went to court and everything got resolved, and we had adopted them. So now they are ours. So now we raise them as our kids. So we took them. They took my last name. Like, I think my little girl's name, we had to fix her middle name because we were saying it wrong anyway. It was spelled funny, so we had to make that little correction. But
Fix it to the way God wanted it.
yeah, I think the way that God wanted it, how it's supposed to be. Anyway, so we trying to be respectful of the parents and fix that middle name, and that's how we have it now. But yeah, God has been. I got to back up a little bit. So there was another story I was supposed to share. When I was in my teenage years, I remember it's probably one of the first times I can think of in my life that God was watching over me and he was protecting me. Now, I always like fast things, always like going fast. Not that I really own anything that was quick, but I was trying to buy a 4-wheeler from my boss because I worked on a farm, and I was checking pivots with him, and it's this really fast four-wheeler. The thing could throw gravel like crazy. I was like, oh my gosh, I got to have that thing. Well, I was trying to buy it from him, trying to work out a price. He says, well, why don't you hop on it, take it for a ride? Let's go check the pivot out. I'm like, all right. So we get on the shop, no helmets, no gear. I probably had shorts on and tennis shoes and a shirt. That's probably as much as I had on for gear on. We were running down the gravel road about as fast as those four-wheelers would go, which I thought that was absolutely great. We went into the cornfield, we checked the pivot, we come back. Well, me thinking about what I was doing, I had a corn husk stuck in the rear chain guard. It's like, you know what? Well, I'm just going to pull over on the right side of the gravel road, so if anybody's coming, I can see them. So I pulled the four-wheeler over, I reached back there, I pulled that thing out, I threw it on the ground, and then I was just about getting ready to grab a gear to take off across that road, and here comes the pickup, going 45, 50 miles an hour down that gravel road. Dust went everywhere. And there's a Hispanic guy sitting in the back of this truck going, something, 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 something. Well, he was telling me to move out of the way. Well, all I heard was, hey, I waved at him. Hey, man. And he got a little ways out of my sight, and I dropped 2 gears on that four-wheeler and got on it. Well, I tell you what, the next split second that happened, I swear, and I promise you, that there was an angel that had a hand between me and that spud truck. Because by all means, I should have died that day. And I mean this with all sincerity. I didn't see it then until I'm later in life. I look back at that memory going, whoo, that was close. Yep. Satan almost got me. He almost got me. But God has plans for me, so he kept me safe. But to tell you the detail of that, as soon as I crossed that road, that semi hit the front wheel of that four-wheeler and took that rim and folded it right over the hub. And it kind of messed up the front of the four-wheeler. And if anybody's rode any kind of four-wheelers or any kind of toys, you got to think of the distance from that front wheel to where the handlebars are, to where my head would have been, leaning forward, throwing rocks, because that's the coolest thing you can do when you're a teenager. It's just let it rip. And there had to be something there. Like, I don't know what that distance was from the corner of that, and I think it was like a cab over truck, I believe. So, I mean, if I would have got just like a split second farther, or there wasn't that protection of God, man, I would have got hit and thrown right out or ran over for sure. So I had a hard time trying to explain to my boss how I want to buy the four-wheeler, even though I smashed the wheel, and he never did sell that to me. I never got to buy that thing. So I guess I just wasn't meant to have a four-wheeler that day. But, God being able to protect you. And there's even other times, I got an older Bronco that I'm still trying to get that back on the road. But another time, I was driving that thing down the road. I was going to a job site in Washington, new job I was going to go. I was going to go talk to the crew that I was going to get hired on with. And I'm driving that thing. It's older. Mechanically, it should be pretty sound. It's got big tires on it, got a lift on it. And some car in front of me slammed on the brakes. And man, I looked up at the last second because my focus was over to the left. I looked up and there's brake lights. Well, I hit the brakes. My rig turned sideways right as an asphalt truck full of asphalt come by me in another dump truck and hit the back wheel, spun me around, wrecked my rig, and I didn't get hurt. I'm sitting in the middle of the road sideways going, now that is a bummer. I just wrecked my rig. This is like one of my most favorite rig ever, and I just smashed the whole front end. Antifreeze is going everywhere. It's hot, smelly. The guy in the truck got out. We had to exchange insurance. Part of the back wheel, my chrome bumper was stuffed in the wheel between the truck, and they had asphalt on it, and you've got to get that unloaded as soon as possible, so they had to let the truck over where it needed to be unloaded. But that's another time I could think of I was close. It could have been worse. I could have come completely sideways and hit the front of the dump truck, and I would have been like a fly on a windshield. I would have just got squashed, and that had been the end of that. But I'm just really encouraging everywhere to follow the Holy Spirit and to listen to his guidance. Listen to where he tells you to guide. And if he doesn't give you an answer, wait. Keep pressing. And if it's not in God's will, he doesn't always answer every prayer. Man, I've said a ton of prayers, and most of them don't get answered. If they're not in alignment with what his will is for you, they won't come to pass. And maybe that's a blessing that we all got to understand. It's a blessing that prayer, there's a reason that you may or may not understand. Why did my prayer not get answered? And I don't know how many people I've talked to. Well, I don't go to church no more because I prayed for so-and-so and they didn't get a healing. Well, what was God's will in that? Did they need to be taken home early because God needed them in heaven more than they have got a plan up there that God needs them right now? So God took them, or it was their time. And of course, all of us, our time is numbered. We got our days are counted. He knows how many hairs are on the top of our head. I know there's scriptures to back that up. It's probably in the Old Testament again. And hi, buddy. And and being all through my life, I've never really had a very good spirit of fear on anything. I've wrestled with some pretty big guys on job sites and never had a fear of anything. I'm like, even I told my adult kids, we were talking about, well, are you ever scared of dying? And I'm like, absolutely not. I said, do you know what's on the other side? It's way better than what we got down here. I mean, I know ice cream and desserts is amazing, and some of the home cooking from like grandma, it was great. But there's things that doesn't compare to what's on the other side. And even my little bit of understanding of what the other side looks like, oh man, I'm ready to go. Like, Lord, if you got to take me tomorrow, I'm sorry for my family, but I'm gone. I'm out. And they did not like hearing that. My kids were upset with me for quite some time about that. Because I'm supposed to be supporting them. I'm supposed to take care of them. But I'm ready to go to heaven right now if God calls me. They didn't want to hear that at all. So they're probably a little upset with me for a few years about that. But, and I can't think of anything else that the Lord might want to share with you.
I'll take myself out.
You can't be up here, bud.
I'll take myself out.
But you can't. I'm trying to get my testimony in front of everybody. Can you see them? They're all looking at you. And we're recording. So I think I want to close with that. And if anybody has any questions or you want to come with me, I'm sure I've got lots of stories. I could talk your ear off for another 30 minutes, I promise. And there's probably a couple of things I should touch on, but I can't. I just don't feel led to speak at this time on that. And I really appreciate all your time. Thank you for coming. Everybody that set up everything, your time to stay and listen to a few of my little life experiences to hopefully let you know where I stand with my faith and where I walk and who my Lord is. And